There's MAHUCHIKH. The high jump, women's high jump, had to get going when it was torrential rain. Tim, wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't. The conditions horrible for the high jumpers, the sprint hurdlers as well. Sadullayeva, first attempt at 189. Oh yes, that's nice. Yeah, she is in fine fettle, we know that. And that keeps her in the mix. They're actually jumping really well considering how awful the conditions are, these athletes. Well, OLYSLAGERS here. She, of course, frustrated to have taken second consecutive Olympic silver. Kept her tights on throughout, did OLYSLAGERS. That first attempt at 189 maintained her perfect card.
Yeah, it was really important for them all to try and keep warm. OLYSLAGERS had blankets and everything to try and keep herself ready to jump. And early in the competition, looked the one who was most likely. Quite a few of them struggling in the conditions, including MAHUCHIKH. 189 came in, their first height. That was straightforward enough, and the crowd who had taken their seats were enjoying that at this point. It's not just the approach to the bed and everything else is something which you've got to contend with, and then go back, try and dry off, get yourself ready, particularly when early on the competition when you're not jumping that often, try and stay warm. So that was very early on.
Well, Patterson had one failure at 189, and these failures at relatively early heights for athletes of this caliber can be costly. But that second time clearance was absolutely brilliant. The world champion in Eugene back in 2022. She's a 6 foot tall Patterson, she too thinking it wise, the Australian, to keep her tights on. And that's a nice one. Very, very high. As she takes off a long way from the board. Depends a lot on speed, does Patterson. She's a lovely looking jumper.
Yeah, Lia APOSTOLOVSKI, who's had a very good early part of the season. Good indoor season as well. Third attempt, and she made it clear as well when the rain was just about at its heaviest. And pleased to stay in the competition at this point, because others were struggling. We lost Christina HONSEL, Distin of Jamaica, Menica of France, all went out at early heights. Set the bar as it moved up to 193, and we'll catch up with that one. Booming music. Sounded like you weren't quite sure. Did you think it was definitely turned down?
Somebody told us me.
Well, we saw the beginning of the high jump a little bit earlier on. The bar went up to 193. We still had 6 women involved there, but it was still pretty wet and miserable. But OLYSLAGERS was sailing through the conditions and over the bar. So 3 first-time clearances for the Australian at 85, 89, and then this time at 93. And that was starting to put the pressure on everybody, including the world record holder, Olympic champion MAHUCHIKH, who had cleared 189 without any problem. But this was a second attempt at 193. Tracksuit bottoms off. And just getting herself in a bit of bother there. And you can see how frustrated she is. You don't often see that sort of look on her face. So Yaroslava MAHUCHIKH, that was a second failure. And then she had a choice to make. Was she going to take a third attempt, or would she pass and hope that she could get used to the conditions? It was drying out a little bit, but OLYSLAGERS clear first time.
Steve, that was a rare situation for MAHUCHIKH this year, wasn't it, to be getting towards the business end of the event and be not in the lead. She's been so dominant. Remember that 2:10 world record of hers a few weeks back. Here's Gerashchenko, this her third and final attempt at 193, and that was a beautiful jump too, just gave a little tickle to the bar, but she loved it. The Olympic bronze medalist in Paris. She's a 2-meter jumper. That was a couple of years ago in Eugene at the World Championships, and that kept her in the hunt and ultimately kept her clear of the rest of the pack, apart from OLYSLAGERS and MAHUCHIKH.
Yeah, she took 3 attempts to get over the previous height as well, at 189, so clutch jumping there. And seated there, you can see there with the covering, just about trying to keep them dry. Now, so MAHUCHIKH, having passed at 193, 2 failures, she has 1 attempt only at 196. Ah, she's got it. There you go. Well, we said she's not under that sort of pressure too often, but she stood up to it incredibly well. Hats off to her, literally. 196 cleared for MAHUCHIKH, and that then turns the tables completely for OLYSLAGERS and Gerashchenko. The other 2 cleared at 193. Well, that was definitely a little game of poker played there, and she played her hand brilliantly.
Well, she did, Steve, because OLYSLAGERS has failed her first attempt at 196, and so has Gerashchenko. And that eases her past the Australian, and a superb job as that pacer.
So MAHUCHIKH all clear at 196, nobody else cleared at that height. She decided to put the bar up to 2-1, had a couple of attempts. Not, to be honest, great attempts, and she was rushing to go through, decided enough was enough. They'd had an evening of atrocious conditions to contend with in the women's high jump. Once the track event started going, it was going to be even more difficult. So competition 1, bit of a gamble, paid off for her, cleared 196, having struggled at 193. Only one to go clear at that height. So once again, MAHUCHIKH takes the victory as expected. But perhaps for all of them, a night to say, okay, we're done.